Virgin Most Powerful Radio, sharing the gospel with clarity and charity.
And now, Virgin Most Powerful Radio is pleased to present Hands-On Apologetics with renowned Catholic author and apologist, Gary Michuta.
And welcome, everybody, Hands-On Apologetics. You have entered into Virgin Most Powerful's Apologetics Dojo. And it's great to be with you today as your host and sensei, Gary Michuta. You know, we have a lot of new visitors, listeners to the show. I should probably mention how the dojo thing came about. It's really, I riffed off my very, very good friend, Justin Romero and Tim Staples. They used to have a show which was the Lord's Gym, which was a powerhouse of apologetics and evangelism. And when Jesse and Terry asked me to start Hands-On Apologetics on Virgin Most Powerful, I was kind of stumped. I needed to somehow, come up with an idea for the show that was training involved. We're working out together, learning new things, equipping ourselves for sharing the faith. I wanted to use the Lord's Gym, but I'm sure it was trademarked because it's such a great idea. So the only thing I came up with was the dojo, which is, I think, still workable, And so anyway, so I guess if this show's the dojo, then I am the sensei. And regardless of what you call me, I truly appreciate you listening. Got a great show in store for us today. As you know, on the show, we are always encouraging all of our listeners and viewers to do apologetics in place. Just because you can't get out and about doesn't mean that you can't evangelize. And social media has really opened the door for sharing the gospel, sharing truth, even beyond, the shores of the United States, around the world. You can really influence a lot of people through social media. And if you're like me, I'm the type of person that is quite shy, actually. I'm not as outgoing as you would think. I don't know. It's weird. When apologetics comes up, God does something to me, and I'm like this. But in ordinary life, I'm pretty laid back and more shy. And I know, just reflecting on my early life before the Lord hit me over the head with a spiritual 2x4, I remember how intimidating it seemed to be to actually speak up and share the faith. And I think intimidation is a huge boundary for Catholics, that there is that fear factor of, speaking up, sharing about your faith. And but with social media, a lot of that fear factor is gone. And in fact, that's what our program today is going to be about. We're going to have Flynn, the Catholic mama, coming on the show. And she's going to share with us some non-intimidating ways to share your faith online. So very, very good practical advice coming your way on the other side of the break. And it's always a delight to have Christine on the show. Just super, super smart lady, sharp, and filled with lots of great insights. So that's what we're going to talk about. And so if you're maybe one of those shy people out there that really wish you had the courage to share the faith, this is the program for you. And so, as always, in addition to, liking, sharing, telling people about the program, that's another way you can evangelize. And also, I want to thank all of you who have subscribed to Hands-On Apologetics on YouTube. Truly appreciate it. And also on social media to try to get the show a little bit more out there. And the numbers have grown, and it's all because of you. And keep up the great work. I truly appreciate it. All right. Let's see. I want to give my shout-outs, as always, to those watching live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and all the other platforms we live stream on. Welcome aboard, folks. Great to have you in the dojo, along with all of you listening on radio around the country and via podcast around the world through either our handy-dandy phone app or through our flagship powerhouse website, which is virginmostpowerfulradio.org. Thank you so much, everybody. Hey, all right, Richard. Thank you for the emojis. I think that's you, Richard, on YouTube. So appreciate it, my engineer friend. Also, I want to let you know, if you have any questions for Christine, you could always call us toll-free, 888-526-2151. That's 888-526-2151. Or you can always send an email to us at questions@handsonapologetics.com. That's one of my two websites, too, folks, if you want to check it out, handsonapologetics.com or GaryMachuda.com. GaryMachuda.com has all my CDs and books and things like that. So if you're interested, let's see. I haven't talked about the finding of the fallacy, so why don't we jump right in? As you know, every episode we try to sharpen our critical thinking skills through the finding the fallacy, where we look at informal fallacy, except for Fridays. Fridays, we switch things up and we look at a propaganda technique. Propaganda technique that we're going to be looking at today is called name calling. Now, I know all of you know about name calling because all of you, at least at one point in your life, were a child, and that's just part of childhood is name calling. But actually, that is a formidable propaganda technique. Why? Because when you name call, when you place labels on people, what you're doing is you're framing the discussion. You're labeling somebody and predefining who they are and what they're about or what they're not about by calling them a name or attaching a name to them. So in a sense, it's kind of a form of cheating when it comes to argumentation. You're not producing evidence that someone is wrong on a point, or evidence that somebody may support a position or something like that. By name calling, what you're doing is you've already been judge, jury, and you convicted the person. And by calling a name, you pre-framed all the discussions so that the person's automatically pronounced guilty in whatever the name they were called. In other words, it's a way to dehumanize people. It's also a way to kind of rig arguments. And we're going to hear a lot of name calling because this is a very popular propaganda technique, especially in political ads. So watch for it, folks. But, it's used elsewhere as well. So beware if someone's attaching labels or name calling in apologetics. I think automatically your antennas should go up and know, hey, somebody is trying to manipulate me to think a certain way in regards to a person. And of course, that's also something that I think Catholics especially should stay away from in argument. Because why? Because we have the truth on our side. Because for us, the truth isn't an abstraction. The truth is a person, Jesus Christ. All right, why don't we jump to the Meet the Early Church Father for today, who is St. Polycrates of Ephesus. And everybody's like, great, I love this particular saint. No, practically no one knows about him because we don't really know much about him. There's extremely meager biographical details about St. Polycrates, and we're indebted to his letter that he wrote to Pope St. Victor. Polycrates was 65 years of age when he wrote the letter, and that was around AD 190. Hence, he was born in the year 125 AD. Among his kinsmen were 7 other bishops, and he died in the year 196 AD. So as you can tell, we only have one letter from him, and that's a fragment preserved in Eusebius' church history, his letter to St. Victor. And Jurgen's Faith of the Early Fathers says that the letter of Polycrates of Ephesus to Victor of Rome is one of the prime sources for the history of the Quattuordeciman controversy. Now, that's a great word to keep in mind if you're playing Scrabble. What's the Quattuordeciman heresy, or controversy, I should say? It's about the calculation of the date of Easter. Okay, that's basically what it is. There was a huge debate in the very early church about that. Polycrates was the leader of those bishops in Asia Minor who opposed Victor's order in regards to arranging the date of Easter so that it always falls on a Sunday. Polycrates held a synod with fellow bishops and informed Victor by letter of the reasons which they determined to continue to follow the only custom they knew, which is observing 14th Nicene, no matter what day of the week it fell on. So a sizable fragment of this letter is extant. Like I said, it's preserved in Eusebius's church history. And in Eusebius's account of the controversy, Pope St. Victor thereupon excommunicated the Diocese of Asia and all the Quattromedecimans as those who observed 1419 were called. Eusebius's information in this regard, however, is held in considerable suspicion, and it's generally supposed that Irenaeus and others who pleaded for tolerance succeeded by staying Victor's hand before ever the censure was leveled. So in other words, what you have in the early church is an apostolic tradition from St. John and some other apostles in the East that Easter should be celebrated on 1419. But in the West, with St. Peter, there was another tradition that Easter should be celebrated in the first Sunday. So they were somewhat conflicting. So what happened was Pope St. Victor wanted the tradition of the West to be universally accepted. And this offered a lot of pushback on the East, of course, because after all, they had their traditions that go back way back when. And so Pope St. Victor threatened to excommunicate the East on this issue, which is very interesting. Remember, this is 190 AD, and yet the Bishop of Rome obviously believes that he has the authority to be able to excommunicate basically the whole of the East in regards to this question. And so just the fact that he even raises that point, and a point, by the way, it really wasn't disputed, shows that, yeah, there was this papal authority in Rome. And that is our early church father for today, Polycrates of Ephesus. And coming up next, our good friend, Christine Flynn. We're going to be talking about non-intimidating ways to share your faith online. Stay tuned, folks.
Hebrews 11:3 says, "By faith we come to understand." According to St. Augustine, understanding is the reward of faith. Therefore, seek not to understand that you may believe, but believe that you may understand. May God grant us a strong living faith in Him and His divine plan of salvation, and help us to believe so that we may understand.
Did you know my mom's gonna have a baby?
She is?
Will it be a boy?
Or will it be a girl?
We don't know yet, but we heard the heartbeat and my dad said this is gonna be someone very special.
You mean like being a president? Or maybe a doctor?
Well, probably maybe like a singer or dancer, I think.
Hello, my name is Marianne Koharski. I'm the director of Pro-Life Across America. We know that every baby is a miracle and has the potential to do great things. If you know someone who is pregnant or in need of alternatives or assistance, or would like to support the work of Pro-Life Across America, please call 1-800-366-7773 or visit our website at prolifeacrossamerica.org. Pro-Life Across America is non-political and totally educational.
Pro-Life Across America, the Billboard people.
This is Terry Barber. I want to thank you for your support here at Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Here's an easy way to do it. If you're going to sell or buy a house, call Real Estate for Life, 877-543-3871, because they're going to get you a Christ-centered agent to purchase your home or to sell your home. And at the close of escrow, a portion of his commission goes right back to Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Call 877-543-3871. Thank you so much for your support.
Now, back to Hands-on Apologetics with Gary Machuda. If you'd like to join the conversation, call 888-526-2151. Here's Gary.
And welcome back, everybody. Hands on Apologetics. And as always, we're always looking at the practical and how can we better explain the share of the faith. And I know for a lot of people, there's that intimidation factor where, there's that fear that you don't want to step out of your comfort zone, maybe say something about the faith. But are there ways in which we could share our faith online that's not intimidating and actually kind of friendly and inviting? Well, to explore this with us, we have our very good friend, Christine Flynn, the Catholic mama. She's the wife and mother of 4, a convert to the faith. Christine's podcast and blogs about all things Catholicism help fellow parents feel more sure of their faith and raise confident Catholic children. You can head to her website, thecatholicmama.com, and grab a free ebook, How to Talk to Your Kids About God, which helps parents answer tough theological questions simply and truthfully. That's, again, thecatholicmama.com. And Christine, welcome back to Hands on Apologetics.
Hello, Gary. How are you?
Again, the Catholic Mama. I'm doing fine. How are things in Wisconsin?
Hello, Gary. Good. We've actually had weather this week, so it's been nice to be outside and not.
Okay. Hold on one second. Okay, so, Christine, do you have an outside speaker perhaps open, or?
I don't think so.
Okay, so,
this is Pat's. Yeah, we'll just blame Pat because I don't know. Do you want me to call in on my phone? Would that be easier? Or this is Pat's.
Yeah, why don't we do that? I think.
Okay. Do you want me to call?
Yeah, just go ahead. Call the toll-free number. In fact, I'll give the toll-free number in case anybody has any questions for you. 888-526-2151. That's 888-526-2151. Yeah, there's a strange loop that was going where I could hear you speaking and me speaking, and Richard says that it seems like it was coming on your end. So anyway, let's see here. All right. Hello, Christine.
Yes, hello.
Ah, there we go.
Is that better?
Although, yeah, it's better. Although it was nice to actually see you on Skype, but this will definitely do.
Okay. Well, that's good. I think I was trying to do video for the first time and then had, look at that.
Well, yeah, that's okay. We'll get it down somehow. But anyway, so how are things going in Wisconsin? How is the Catholic Mama podcast coming along?
It's funny because I wound up, everybody was home for quarantine. I think a lot of people listen to podcasts on the commute. And so, but then over the past couple of months, the podcast keeps growing. And it's so cool to see that, this thing that I started just kind of on a whim is actually helping people. It's a really humbling and very cool to see.
Yeah, very cool. And it is great. I love your show. And although there was an episode where I think you probably should take it down because it was so bad. It was when I came on and really made a fool of myself.
I don't remember it that way. I remember being very tired and fumbling over all my words. So it happens to the best of us.
Well, no, I appreciate that. But no, fantastic work. And, this is kind of up the same alley, too, because, as Catholic parents, I know with me, I'm actually a pretty shy person. And I know that it's always a little intimidating to bring up the faith in certain circumstances, and certainly face-to-face. At least before I got involved with apologetics, that was the case. But now with social media, there are other outlets that maybe aren't so intimidating.
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking up some research, prepping for our show this week, and I came across a study that had been done first in 1993, and then 25 years later they decided to redo it. And back in 93, way more Christians thought it was a personal responsibility of theirs to share the faith with others. By the time that they redid the study, it had dropped by 25 percentage points. So very few people think it's their own responsibility now. But interestingly, it increased of how many people thought that they could do it. And I'm assuming that has to do with social media because you can put pictures out there and talk about things a little bit more, and it's, for better or worse, we are braver behind a keyboard.
Right.
So maybe in that respect, it is helping share the faith a little bit. We just have to get more people to realize that it is a Christian responsibility. Jesus said, Matthew 28:19, go and make disciples of the nations. It is a directive from our Lord to do it.
That's right. Yeah, no one gets to heaven alone. Yeah, we have to be like divine crazy glue, bring people with us.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true. Not only is it not intimidating, but also I know some people when they get online, they take on an entirely different persona, not necessarily a good one either. That's a danger too.
That is, yeah. Again, people are brave, and it is difficult anyway. You don't want to overuse emojis because it makes you seem infantile, but just straight words, unless you're a very good communicator in the written space, it can come off rather just mean or harsh if you post things online a certain way. Plus, you never know who's looking. How many people that you have lots of friends, say on Facebook, there's a smattering of all different types of people, atheists, agnostics, Protestants, Catholics, whatever it is. You're not going to be able to rub everybody the right way, if you are just posting these things without really vetting your message and what you're trying to talk about.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I often wonder if maybe it's because it seems like it's such an intimate, way of communicating, like writing in a diary, that people aren't afraid to, say what they feel, where normally in everyday life you wouldn't.
Right. Yeah, we get pictures, anywhere online, if we're sharing things, we share pictures of our everyday life, and so it can seem a bit more intimate than it actually is.
Right.
And again, we have so many people that we're probably talking to from all different walks of life. It seems everybody's divided these days, especially, and you're going to probably offend a lot of people unless you're very careful and have more nuance about it.
Yeah. So I think that also is part of the intimidation factor too. Is we don't want to. I think people don't want to make enemies. They certainly don't want to alienate family members on social media. So, what are some of the ways that we could share the faith without that?
Yeah. So it's funny. I started the Catholic Mama really just as a way to talk about my growing faith, and I didn't really tell anybody in my family that I was doing it because I purposely didn't want to feel like I was stepping on eggshells around people that I knew were either fallen away Catholics or of a different faith entirely. And so even still, I mean, if somebody comes, somebody from my family or friend comes and listens to my show, that's different. That's not me imposing my beliefs on them. They're actively seeking out my work, and if it offends them, well, they came to me. Yeah. That's not my fault then.
Yeah, right.
But then when it comes to, I don't share, sometimes I'll put, like if we talk or you post something on my Facebook wall about being on the show, I'll share that. But I've personally segmented certain things, especially because, with certain places that I've worked with, that it's just, I'm a representative of a certain company, that changes some things about how you might evangelize. But there are a lot of ways in which to share the faith without having, somebody getting up in arms or saying down. Of course, people still say mean things sometimes, and we have to be prepared for an uncharitable response, even if we are saying something seemingly innocuous and with good intentions. People will construe it and project whatever is on their hearts, on you sometimes, and that's unfortunate, but we do need to be prepared for that. The first thing, and I always feel like every time I come on the show and talk to you about this, or something like this, I put this at the end. The first thing is to pray.
Yeah, right.
If you want to share something and you're not quite sure how to do it, pray, ask the Holy Spirit for help, think of a favorite saint. I actually pray a lot to Mother Angelica, since she was doing so much media work, and I just love her spunk and everything. I'll ask her for help and guidance as well. So, find a saint or pray to God himself, asking for some direction on how best to present whatever it is that that's on your heart to to talk about with your friends online. So that's number one. I always say, I feel like I always put that at the end of all of our conversations. Don't forget to pray. I would say, that's probably the first thing. And then also, if basic marketing, you have to give the right message to the right person at the right time. So of course you can't know that for everybody, but look at your friends list. See who's on there that you know. Not everybody's going to be very forthcoming with their personal beliefs, but if your friend Jim is an agnostic, or he has problems with the problem of suffering. Say he really doesn't understand that and can't see how a loving God could allow suffering. Then this is probably advice that we don't hear very often. Keep the perspective on you, on the focus on yourself, and share a personal story of how your faith in God helped you through a time of suffering. Because anybody who starts fighting with you online about that, it's just going to look like a real jerk.
Right.
They're attacking you personally, like, oh, wow, you found faith in God helped you through this. What a rube. Nobody's going to say that. So really, I think keeping the focus on yourself and your own personal testimony is so much more powerful than somebody finger wagging of why you should believe in God because X, Y, and Z. And you can look at your friends list, and if you have certain friends that are atheists or New Age or Protestant, you can just cycle through different messages that you think could help somebody like that in a very a personal way that makes it very difficult for anybody to attack. It's not saying you should believe this. This is saying here's how my faith helped me. And actually, I have a friend.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, no one can argue with you that no, you didn't experience that. I mean, you know what I mean? And if they do, they're the ones that really look bad.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we talk about how everybody is so subjective and relativistic nowadays. Well, they better respect you when you go and share some subjective experience of your own. I have a friend, Katie McGaver, who has her own blog called Be the Light of Christ, and she went through a horrible illness. I think she had meningitis for a number of years and really struggled with it. And she shares now that she's well, she shares how much her faith in God helped her through that, that darkness. And how can you argue with that? I mean, you're like, oh, thank goodness that God was there helping you through this. And she says it with just such joy and truthfulness. Like, of course, of course he's real. After you listen to Katie, you feel like, of course he's real,
Yeah, very good. We're chatting with the Catholic Mama, Christine Flynn of thecatholicmama.com about unintimidating ways to share online. Stay tuned, folks. More to come on the other side of the break.
Hi, this is Jesse Romero from the Terry and Jesse Show, also from Jesus 911. Let's face it, we all need to use the internet, but we need screen accountability. Why? Pornography is a huge problem, especially on the internet. And every time we tap into the internet, we get bombarded with images and temptations that degrade our humanity. So we need Covenant Eyes to block these pornographic sites and advertisements from infiltrating our lives. Covenant Eyes helps us take custody of our eyes and custody of our intellect. So I recommend you go to covenanteyes.com and type in the promo code, VMPR, to support the network. Protect yourself and your family from the imminent threats on the internet. www.covenanteyes.com, code VMPR, live porn free. Thank you for listening to Virgin's Most Powerful Radio. Thank you. God bless you. Keep the faith.
This is Terry Barber. I want to thank you for supporting Virgin Most Powerful Radio. And here's an easy way to support us by going to smile.amazon.com and type in Catholic Resource Center or Virgin Most Powerful Radio. And when you log in your Amazon account and you purchase products, a portion of it will go right back in supporting Virgin Most Powerful Radio. And it doesn't cost you a dime. I want to thank you ahead of time because that supports us year-round. May God bless you and your family. Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow! That's 80%! realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
This is Jesse Romero. You're listening to Hands-On Apologetics with Gary Machuda on Virgin Most Powerful Radio.
And welcome back, everybody. We are chatting with Christine Flynn of the CatholicMama.com podcast about non-intimidating ways to share the faith online. And Christine, don't feel bad. The first step, of course, is prayer. I don't know how many apologetics talks I gave that I always had it at the end, and part of the reason is you just assume, well, of course you would pray, but then it occurred to me, maybe that should be the first one because maybe people don't have that first, but prayer. And then the other one, like you said, is to be aware of your audience and to maybe share the faith wrapped up in your own experience because that's both powerful and it's also difficult for people to push back on.
Right. Yeah, I come from a family where some extended family members are still Catholic, but I was raised in the Bible Belt around a lot of Protestants. My own parents are fallen away Catholics. So say on my Facebook, myself, the friends list is quite a variety of people. And I got to say, the whole conversion process, letting people know I converted, I was sweating buckets. I was so nervous to tell my own dad that I converted to Catholicism. So when I went to share a post about when I got baptized at Easter Vigil a couple of years ago, I was nervous, but I was also pleasantly surprised. I talked about how God worked on my heart through the love of my children to make me realize that, there was something more than just what, we can sense here on earth with our eyes and fingers and taste and hear and all that. So when I shared that post, I was pleasantly surprised by people from all walks of life, even Protestant pastors that I used to work with, said, "Oh, congratulations, welcome home. This is wonderful." And it wasn't, I was waiting, for something snarky, but as I've realized over the past couple of years, people love to hear these kinds of stories, even non-believers, I think, especially because, say for me personally, coming of, being a New Ager type person, I was very hesitant to very standoffish about any type of overt evangelization effort. It really, walls went up. But it is cool, if you are a spiritual but not religious person, of course we believe in, the Spirit moving through people. So if you have somebody like that reading your own personal testimony of how, the Spirit of the Lord moved through you, it's going to be very difficult to fight back about that. And would they want to? They're going to look horrible online. So you might as well, use that to your advantage.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, and it's powerful, and like I said, how could they argue that you didn't experience it? And also, I like your point that it avoids. I know that there's all sorts of defensive mechanisms people have, and usually that's when you really get some blowback is where you hit those tripwires of pet issues and stuff, including being preachy. But if you're just sharing what's going on in your life and how God has affected you or your family members or people it doesn't set off those tripwires, and so the message actually gets through. Yeah. Of course, though, I mean, it's not going to be foolproof. There are times where people are going to still be snarky. I know but there are ways around that too. Even if so when I shared the pregnancy announcement for our fourth child,
everybody was on the announcement itself. Everybody was very excited for me and everything. And so I think I remember phrasing it in a certain way, or I always make sure to phrase it in this way that, God's blessed us with another one. Because how many people say, oh, even when I'm out and about, people say, oh my gosh, these are all yours. I mean, there are only 4 of them. Then it's not that many. There are only 4 children. Oh wow, you really have your hands full. And I'll always make a point of saying, oh, they're happily full. Or how do you get through it all? Lots of prayer. I always try to flip the conversation to that. And if you focus it, people usually go along with it. Of course, it doesn't always work that way. And then you really just, that's where prayer comes in for the other person to have a little bit more tact online probably. But through most of this, I think people who share stories of their own faith or friends' faith or whatever, I think that really is pretty foolproof and leaving out the memes from those keyboard warriors,
Yeah, very good. I like that about flipping conversations, especially since I think we're bombarded by the messages, that children are burdensome, and you should only have one, if any, and, all the negative messages that it's so important just to present things in a positive light, that children are a blessing. And that's a message that really needs to be heard. And it doesn't have to be preachy. It just be genuine, thank God for these kids.
Yeah, joy. A woman reached out to me not too long ago, found out that she was pregnant with a second or third child. I can't remember at the moment, but it's pretty soon after the last child. She's like, what do I say? And I said, just say that you're happy because people always ask, are they planned? I don't know. But I just, say, whatever God wants to give us, we are so happy to take care, to have this child or something like that. And just having that joy and genuineness about the joys of parenthood is huge. I mean, that alone, it's in a very small but happy way counters the culture of death that is pervasive through every facet of life right now.
Yeah. Let me throw something out at you. How about maybe not sharing your own personal experience, but perhaps sharing something that you read in a book, like Life of a Saint or something that really fascinated you?
I was going to say, hopefully people who are listening are reading good books and doing spiritual reading. I mean, even a book review or quotes. The one thing that I would just caution on writing, just sharing one quote, which that's powerful too, or sharing, a Catholic news headline or something is headlines and things, they can be taken out of context so easily. So take a few minutes, take a few extra minutes, write down why you liked the quote from the book or why you liked this particular book or what was important that you found in this news article or whatever. Don't just leave it to your Facebook or whatever platform you're on to auto-populate that information for you, because very few people, people scroll. It's the endless scroll, and they'll pay attention to the big print and not bother to click through and find out exactly why you liked it. It's funny, I was asking my son why he liked something recently. He's like, I don't know, I just like it. I was like, well, no, because you want to find out why, be able to articulate why you like something, because if somebody asks you, it might be some reason they hate it. So be good at articulating why you like something or found something meaningful or why it's important to your faith. And that'll go a lot longer, because the chances of somebody clicking through a link that you share is pretty minimal. And especially news headlines, they're written, and they can be kind of clickbaity, but they're written for click-throughs or at least eyeballs. And not everybody's going to do that, and they might get the wrong impression by just a snippet that you share. So take a few extra minutes, I'd say, and write why it's important to you or why you decided to share it.
Yeah, very good, very good. Especially that kind of also opens the door for Amazon reviews, things like that. If there's a good book, not only writing a review or giving stars and things like that would increase the visibility of that particular work. But generally, you don't get a lot of pushback on reviews, maybe a little bit, but that's not very intimidating either. Yeah,
that's a very good point. And then you'll be helping the author, of course, because then it'll push it up in the search results. Yeah, and also just make sure to say why you actually liked it. I see, a review for. It's funny. I bought a book. It was a translation of a St. Teresa of Avila book, and it got great reviews. And the reviews didn't say why they liked it. Well, I ordered it, and it turned out that it was actually from a person who did the translation but stripped all the Catholic stuff out of St. Teresa's writing.
Wow.
Somehow she managed to do this. And it was actually a feminist interpretation of Teresa of Avila's work. And I didn't catch it until I read the introduction. And I went back and looked at the reviews, and finally I noticed a 1-star review who said that this was heretical. But you're looking at the reviews itself saying, great book. I didn't know that. If somebody had said, great book, it's not Catholic, I would have just, passed by. Exactly. But it's important to, help. Yeah, right, help. And really, usually say on an Amazon review, I don't know if you can respond personally to reviews. You could just get like a thumbs up or thumbs down or something. Or Goodreads is another one. There's definitely options, or podcast reviews, anything like that. You can share why you like something Catholic. That's a great thing.
Yeah, that's huge, and it's just a click. You can evangelize with one click of the mouse. And it'd be a shame if you're at the gates, St. Peter's there, and it's like, why did you click? You could have just clicked. Yeah. Anyway,
all you do is 5 stars. Speaking of saints, and you mentioned it a minute ago, sharing cool stories of saints is awesome. You've got Saint Theodosia was killed with a ram's horn to the neck for defending sacred icons. I mean, that's pretty awesome. We have, what is it? I don't know if she's a saint yet, but her Nellie Organ was this little Irish girl who, even as like a 3 or 4-year-old, really understood the true presence of the Eucharist. And so she was dying of tuberculosis. She was given the ability to take Holy Communion way younger than the age, I think at that time was 12. And the Pope at the time, because of her piety, lowered the age. So there's all these really cool stories, whether it's a saint that was a martyr and died in a really fascinating, kind of horrific way, or saints who were very brave to the end, or saints who were just so humble and understanding of these deep theological realities without even having training in it. That's really interesting. I mean, even Mark Twain, he was anti-Catholic, and he had a huge fascination with Joan of Arc, and even said that the book he wrote on her was his favorite and best work. So the saints have an ability. I think we all value like really, brave or fascinating people in history, and the saints can be that for others, even if they aren't Catholic or don't really care about Catholicism that much. At least it's, see like, oh, okay, your religion values this really interesting person. That's cool too. Yeah.
Very good. We're chatting with Christine Flynn of the CatholicMama.com podcast. Check it out, folks. We are going to be right back and explore some more unintimidating ways to share your faith online. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.
Help the Helpless, a Minnesota St. Paul nonprofit organization chaired by Father of Tear and volunteers, is humbly asking you for your kind support to help the poor and the handicapped children in India and Ecuador. Through financial support from the Help of the Helpless benefactors, the children are provided with clothing, food, education, shelter, and the teachings of the Catholic Church. The mission is to help children thrive and become self-sufficient young adults leading productive lives. We also provide aid to poor families in Ecuador with food baskets, medicines, medical assistance, and help with funeral needs for the deceased. The work in India is done by Father Antonio's organization, St. Mary's. In Ecuador, the work is being done by the Servant Sisters of the Home of Mother. You can call us at 877-762-8857. To learn more, please visit our website, www.helpthehelpless.org. God bless you.
In 1 Corinthians 13:13, St. Paul says, "So there abide faith, hope, and love, these three." According to St. Ignatius of Antioch, faith is the beginning and love is the end. And God is the two of them brought into unity. Then comes everything else that makes up a Christian. May God grant that we may attain all the virtues that make for authentic followers of His Son.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show, and they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow, that's 80%. realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Hands-On Apologetics with Gary Machuda. If you'd like to join the conversation, call 888-526-2151. Here's Gary.
And welcome back, everybody. Hands-On Apologetics, and we're chatting with Christine Flynn of the CatholicMama.com podcast about unintimidating ways to share your faith online. And we were just talking about writing reviews, bringing up stories of saints. And, you know, Christine, for me, especially with my kids had friends from all different walks of life. I would just talk about Padre Pio angel stories, because who doesn't love hearing about angels, you know?
Oh, yeah,
and,
right.
Yeah, and it piques your interest about Padre Pio, and if you look up Padre Pio, it's unavoidable. He is Catholic, and a very good Catholic at that.
Yeah, no kidding. Actually, I just finished reading a book by Diane Allen on, it's called Pray, Hope, and Don't Worry, True Stories of Padre Pio, I think is the full title. And fascinating. So fascinating. I actually sent a copy of it to my parents saying, he's so Catholic, and all he wants is everybody, you know, to go to confession and not to embarrass him in front of Jesus and Mary. And I don't know, hopefully they'll, you know, get the hint and go back to confession or something. But but yeah, his stories are amazing, and it got me so jazzed up. I haven't stopped talking about it. I have a picture, you know, halfway through the book, I bought a picture of Padre Pio and framed it and put it in our hallway. So yeah, I mean, who doesn't like the stories of bilocation and, you know, mind reading? And angels too can be non-intimidating because they're across religious traditions, you know. So they're not just Catholic.
Yeah.
And you know, they show up in Protestants and other, you know, other religions.
Exactly. And, you know, his stories are so insightful yet funny and entertaining too.
Yeah, because, you know, considering the man suffered so much, he had a pretty good sense of humor.
Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. So that's one way. What other way could we share our faith in an unintimidating way online?
I think we kind of touched on it on, you know, changing the way we talk about, say, babies, you know, and bringing back that culture of life. One other thing, you know, to kind of take back the language is how many times, I'm sure we've all seen it online, somebody will say, you know, oh, I'm up for a job promotion, you know, positive thoughts or good vibes, welcome, you know. And right. I would have, you know, in my past would have said, you know, sending you positive energy or whatever, something silly like that that's meaningless. You know, take that language back. You say, I will pray for you when I go to adoration, or I will pray for you in my rosary today, and really focus on you know, there's something real happening with prayer. We know that. Sending, you know, a thought out into the universe to nobody, just doesn't make sense. So, you know, take that language back. And you know, after years of, you know, rolling my eyes at anybody who would, or feeling like, about somebody who would pray for me, I think a lot of just take that language back. It can be awkward at first to say, I will pray for you, because it really does say, hey, I'm a Christian, right? This is what we do. We pray. So it does commit you to it, but that's a good thing. Get used to it.
Yeah, and there's a note of sincerity there too, which makes it difficult to mock somebody, because they sincerely are praying for your benefit, you know. And what can you say to that? I mean, the only thing you really can say is thank you.
Yeah,
you know?
right. You're not going to say no thanks. And then also, not to use, I'm not saying to use your children, but if you are doing, feast day celebrations with your children or grandchildren or any other family member, whether it's the feast day of St. Dominic, which I think is tomorrow, or, celebrating Easter, whatever, just make a point of sharing those photos that are religious, sharing the family photo if you got one in front of the altar when Mass was ended at Christmas, or sharing some fun activity that you did with your children to celebrate one of the feast days. A friend of mine was saying that she bakes a lot as a way of sharing the faith, and they bake a lot for the feast days. So maybe for St. Lucia's feast day in December, maybe bake some saffron buns and give that out to the neighbors. Well, who's going to say no to that? And then you learn a little bit about the saint along the way. So, sharing photographs of the religious things that you are doing, or I post before I head to adoration. Every time I usually post online and ask how I can pray for people because I'm going to adoration, and I try to do it about at least 12 hours prior to me going, or a day before. But say I'm going to adoration, what prayers would you like me to bring with you? And that just brings this conversation to the forefront, normalizes that language again with when so many people find it uncomfortable or not PC or something to say it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know some people who maybe aren't militantly atheistic, but they don't believe in God. And, their opinion, like if I said something like that, it'd be like, what could it hurt, And that just might be just enough of an opening for God's grace to work in their life. Like maybe God will answer the prayer and, and get things going in the right direction.
Yeah, right. Yeah, open. If they're open enough to ask for your prayers, I mean, that is a small little crack in the wall, they may have built up around themselves. And then too, I mean, if going back to say a book review or something, that's borrowed authority from a published author, that maybe it'll just catch somebody's eye long enough that they'll pick up the book and the book will do its work, and might open them up a little bit. So it might not be all at once. Again, I mean, we're here to save souls, not win arguments. And we got to play the long game in all of this. We don't want to come out guns blazing and turn everybody off to the Christian faith because we're just too aggressive about it, or too weird, or Yeah. But just it can be small. I mean, again, you could put a picture up of a beautiful sunrise and say God is so good. It doesn't have to be these huge theological discussions all the time, or you don't have to try to lure people into an argument over the sanctity of life or something like that. You can go and do those things, but it's exhausting. So just, I guess too, I mean, if you are willing to, you don't have to, go out guns blazing, diving into a pro-life argument. But if you want to, just, think about what you're willing to do, and then start small if you haven't really shared anything about the faith, because those little bits will add up over time, and God will help you if you really make this effort and ask for the help. I mean, you'll get it, right? God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think part of the intimidation process is, well, I don't want to go up to the plate unless I'm going to knock it out of the park, with some amazing argument where, people convert by in the droves. It could just be something really small or simple. Conversions often are. It's very rare that you'll have a 1 or 2 step conversion where they'll run into just a couple of people or facts or something, and then they'll say, hey, I want to become Catholic. It's usually hundreds of tiny little steps in the right direction.
Yeah, it's a long game. And I mean, even with my own conversion, I kept seeing that one advertisement online. It's what if for 30 days you just believed? And that thought just kept, coming up in my mind over the course of several months. But it was just that one small thing, some advertisement, but one small thing that got me thinking about all this stuff. So whatever anybody wants to share, that could be that one small thing for somebody. And why not? Why not give that a try? And again, you don't have to do something that's intimidating or that you feel really uncomfortable with. Just start small, change the language, push the language back towards being rooted in the Christian sense, prayers and the sanctity of life and how good God is. and how much God has helped you through your own personal struggles or triumphs or whatever it is. And again, that stuff is really hard to argue with. I mean, if you have somebody who fights with you over that, well, they're just a jerk, and everybody else is going to see it anyway.
That's right. Yeah, it blows up in their own face in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not intimidating at all. Like you said, if you have a picture of a beautiful sunset, say, isn't God beautiful? Of course, you don't want to tag on there, convert or die, afterwards. But, just pointing to God's beauty,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to be a foolproof way to convince an atheist on some philosophical thread that you're commenting on that God is real, that there's beauty in the universe, and that's not going to work. But for somebody who's just passing by, that might just make them stop and think about it themselves the next time they see something in nature that's beautiful or something like that. So, and yeah, these little small touch points, I think, really do add up. And we can't know all of it. God does, but we can't see it. So we just have to pray that we do the right things and say the right things and give the right messages to at the right times. And again, that's why starting with prayer is so important. And then just, using your own life as an example. If you're living a fully Catholic life, that should be easy to share that online. And even at the beginning when I first started this, the blog and the podcast, I would hit, publish on something, and I'd kind of cringe waiting for some pushback or some insult. And I got to tell you that doesn't usually happen. I got to get into something like, calling out abortion or something for somebody to get angry at me. But most of the time you're just talking about how good God is to your life. People are excited to join in, or at the very least, they might just pass it by and not pay any mind to it. But you could be getting somebody who needs that message to see it. And that's the whole point of all this.
Right, exactly. And you don't know. And that's where God's grace comes in, because many times, you will say something, and then a few weeks later, somebody will come up to me and say, wow, thank you so much for saying that, because this was happening in my life and I needed to hear that. You just don't know. It's all part of God's plan.
Yeah. That's one of the things I would love to know. God willing, I get to heaven. I want to meet everybody who prayed for me, that, just strangers or people who said things, to try to help get me to heaven. I want to meet all those people, because I would probably be so in awe of how many tiny little touch points throughout our lives that really was for a lot of us. Because even if you're a cradle Catholic, I mean, there's that moment. There's reconversions. We're always in the process of converting to our faith and keeping it strong. So these little bits, these little reminders that people post are really, really important, even if they don't seem like you're fighting the big battles. The culture war is won in a lot of times in these small instances.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we only have a couple more minutes, and I want to talk a little bit about your podcast, thecatholicmama.com. What's been happening on the show?
Oh, wow. I'm trying to think. Well, you know what? Pat comes on the show every week. We let the kids watch TV on Sunday mornings, and we podcast together. So Pat and I love our episodes together. It's almost like a date with a microphone, I guess.
Right.
So I took a really cool challenge of raising a Catholic leader in my own house with giving my kids some interesting challenges with some guys from the Adventure Catholic ministry, and it's been very cool that my kids are happily doing tours now.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it, Christine. And coming up next, the Terry and Jesse Show. High Impact Talk coming at you. Thank you so much for listening, and God willing, we'll be back again. Bye-bye, everybody.
In the 1990s, I lived and worked in Hollywood. But when my wife Betty's mom took ill, we relocated to Orange County. And it was during this time in our lives that I converted to Catholicism. Once my eyes were opened to the truth, I couldn't learn enough about the faith. But I had less free time than ever, especially with a long commute. That's when I discovered the real value of Catholic audio. Listening to cassette tapes transformed my daily commute into a miniature retreat. And that's the beauty of Virgin Most Powerful Radio today. Since the podcasts are archived, You can listen anytime on our smartphone app. I know how listening to Catholic audio can bring you closer to Christ and His Church. So I encourage you to visit the App Store or go to vmpr.org and download the app today. It just might change your life. I'm Matthew Arnold for Virgin Most Powerful Radio.